Welcome to the Swim Swam podcast. I'm today's host, Coleman Hodges, and joining us today, she is the first woman to ever win back-to-back Olympic titles in the 100 and 200 backstroke. She's the first Australian to ever win 4 individual gold medals at the Olympics. She is coming off a 5-medal performance in Paris, and she was part of Australia's most successful Olympics in history. Today, we're sitting down with Kaylee McKeown. How's it going, Kaylee?
Hello. Yeah, it's going good. That's a little bit of a nice intro, isn't it?
This episode of the Swim Swam podcast is sponsored by Commit Swimming, Swim Swam's exclusive team management software partner. Since 2015, Commit has been providing coaches with swimming's leading workout management software. And now, Commit has team management software too. Commit wants to help you make the switch from Team Unify to a simpler, more powerful solution. Their onboarding and customer service team will walk you through every step of the way. Check them out at commitswimming.com to book your demo today. That's COMMIT swimming.com. I'd say it's a little bit of a nice one. How is it all sitting with you? I mean, has that even sunk in? Are those things that you think about or have thought about since getting home?
There's definitely hints here and there, coming off the plane and being greeted by the Australians in the hangar was a moment of me kind of reflecting on the week that I did have at the Olympics. So it was just really enjoyable to soak up that, not just by myself, but with the whole Australian team. I thought that was, most of the Australian team, I thought that was pretty spectacular. But since coming home, I've just honestly tried to switch off from it as much as I can because I just want to enjoy being Kaylee for a little bit and, just doing nothing.
It sounds so nice as a swimmer, as I'm sure as a professional athlete, just to switch off and not do much. How long does that last for you? How long do you get?
Honestly, I haven't spoken to my coach Bowley yet. He's actually retiring in December, so I've got to figure out where I'm going to train, who I'm going to train with, and all the rest of that. So I'm trying not to think about it too much, but first and foremost, they're my 2 biggest issues that I've got to kind of conquer. I'm not sure if I'll do World Short Course, not sure if I'll really swim for the rest of the year. So for me, it's just a matter of enjoying the time now and just trying to figure out my next 4-year cycle.
Yeah, I mean, that was certainly on my list. I'm curious just kind of your thoughts of Michael Bull stepping away. Obviously, you moved to train with him and have had pretty good success with him and his squad. And as you said, you're figuring out the next steps. But I'm assuming you knew the news that he was going to retire in December heading into Paris.
Yes, absolutely. He was very straightforward from the day that I actually moved into the Griffith program. He said, I'm retiring after these Olympics, so it's up to you if you want to spend the next 3 years here or not. I said, yep, absolutely, that's fine. I'll deal with the problem later, and I'm dealing with that problem now. But he's been in the sport for such a long time. His coach's number is 30, and he's also got his own swimmer's number. So I couldn't imagine how he would be feeling as well, stepping away from the sport after all these years. He must be feeling a bit lost and just ready to actually spend the time with his family because I would hate to know how much he's sacrificed to, be with us swimmers when we're away on teams and then, come home and only spend a little bit of downtime with his family before it's the next cycle, the next season, that kind of thing. So I'm actually really excited for him, and I think he won't step away from swimming. I think he'll just take the break and then come back in. Whether or not that's in a role of supporting other coaches, I'm not sure, but I can see him getting a little bit bored if he's done it for that long, especially.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think I know at least in America, that's how it goes often, right? You have these, especially at universities, if coaches have been in a role for years and years, they'll retire. and then they'll show up on deck, whether it's that deck or another deck or like
They're
you
popping
see
up.
their faces. They're popping
Yeah.
up. So yeah, it makes sense. Do you have any leads? I mean, have you obviously your old coach Chris Mooney is still coaching. Mel Marshall is coming to take over Bully's squad. I mean, do you have ideas of, and obviously it affects where you live too.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually love this time of year because you see so many swaps and so many changes go on, and it's not just Australian, it's like worldwide, you know what I mean? You just see everyone doing these changes. And it makes me feel a bit more comfortable that I have already kind of been in this process before after last Olympics. But, I would love to go back to the Sunshine Coast. I miss it dearly. It's, my quiet little safe home space, I guess. Love the beaches there, and it's just so much more relaxed than the Gold Coast. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to trial with Mel Marshall. I'm going to do the best thing that's going to help my swimming over these next 4 years. And if that means I've got to live on the Gold Coast again for 4 years, that's just how it is. But yeah, it's hard because I want to give you an answer, but I don't have an answer myself. I'll definitely trial around different places, have a few talks with different coaches, and especially Rowan, our head coach, just to kind of get an idea of where he thinks the best place for me to be will be.
Yeah. How far is Sunshine from Gold Coast?
On a good day without traffic, it's 2 hours, but if you hit some traffic, you can be 3 hours onwards if there's an accident. So it's really not that far away, but when you're swimming all the time, it's hard to kind of catch a break and go up there.
Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's. I think where you live is your home, and you can go other places, but home base is home base.
Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely. I also think I think USA Swimming has had a model like this before, where they kind of have a national team head coach, but Rowan, I like that you mentioned Rowan's name, and just his role, because he's not a direct coach to you, but you're still asking for his input. I'm just kind of curious what role he does play in, not like your swimming and training, but just your role as a professional.
I've actually known Rowan before he was put into this position, so we do have a quite close relationship. And I think he kind of nurtures me in that way, as like he sees me an athlete who he's helped coach since I was like 15. As Chris Mooney and him are quite good friends, so our relationship's gone on since then. But as a role for the Australian team, he kind of just is a soundboard for us to communicate with and just say, I'm looking at this option. Are you willing to help support me in this phase? And that's kind of how it works. At the end of the day, it's our decision as an athlete, but he's there to help support and facilitate that.
Yeah. I assume it's nice to know that you have the backing of your, of Swimming Australia in a move like that.
Absolutely. It goes a long way. And I think the funding side of things as well, like we wouldn't be able to do that individually if it wasn't for the support that we did get.
Yeah, it's good to hear. It's good to hear that you're being taken care of as professionals and as athletes who are bringing home multiple gold medals. I'm still not over it. I can't believe, you competed in 3 of the most highly anticipated races of the games from my perspective, and all of the races delivered. I'm curious on your perspective, just coming into the meet, knowing you had Olympic experience, but also probably having some pressure of defending both of those titles, how you were feeling just in the staging camps after trials.
That's a very loaded question. But honestly, I was hoping I wasn't fully rested for our trials back in June. And I was very happy with my performances there, considering that. And this year I've been pushing times, diving times consistently that I've never done before. And I think coming off that confidence and having my team support around me, I believe that I was definitely capable of swimming a lot faster than I did in the Olympics. But in saying that, you know, you can't take away from the performances that I did have. I wouldn't change that for the world. But a part of me is a little bit gutted that I didn't really live up to my expectations around time. You know, but at the end of the day, I'm still in the sport. So hopefully I can keep chasing that and get to that point. But leading into the games and watching the US trials, I was just like, it was actually a bit of a relief that Reagan had taken that 100 backstroke world record, because I was like, great, that's the first, you know, individual race for me at the Olympics, and the pressure's not on me. And that really helped me set up for the rest of the week, because I just went in there and I swam freely and just enjoyed myself. Like, it's probably one of the first races that I've ever walked out and just like had a big smile on my face and just like was serious about it. But I was like, I'm not supposed to win here. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. And then obviously coming away with that win and going into the 200 backstroke, that's when that pressure started to creep in. And I definitely spent too much emotional energy on that, which probably cost me for the rest of the week. But at the end of the day, like, I couldn't have done any better within the performances and how I came away with what I came away with.
That I love that answer. I was going to ask you, I was curious how seeing Reagan break your world record affected you. And it set you free.
Yeah.
So, and as you said, you came into that race and you weren't supposed to win, and you did. And as an American, I'm a little bitter because you weren't supposed to win.
Yeah.
but of course, it was such a great race, and it was so almost mesmerizing to watch, because I was in awe of how automatic you are. I mean, I think you swam that race just as a fan, the exact same you did 3 years ago in Tokyo. It's like you were controlled, you were calm. Last 15 meters, see you later.
And I think that's always kind of been my race plan too, right? And it's something I've worked hard towards, is just staying in my own lane. Like, I knew everyone would go out a lot harder than me, or, you know, I'd be a little bit back, but I just had to have that belief in my last 25 and 15 meters that I had done enough work to get my hand to the wall. But yeah, like, racing is racing, and I've always kind of lived by the mantra that world records are meant to be broken. And I think if you can think of it in that way, it just makes something that's so big seem so much smaller than what it actually is. Like, you can be proud of it, but I know in 2 years, 2 months, 6 months, my world records in the 200 and the 50 might be broken. That's just how life rolls.
Might be broken by you.
That would be nice, but we don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, that's. I mean, I was going to ask you, when do you think we're going to see 56 and 202?
Oh,
I mean, it's knocking on the door, right?
I know. I would have loved to have had gone that at the Olympics. Like I said, like, my training showed all the right signs for that. And, leading into the games, and even before I, kind of really took it seriously, Bowley said to me, 202 and 56 are going to be what wins at Olympics. So you've got to be chasing that. And I accepted that. It wasn't quite there, but at the end of the day, you can't really complain if you come away with what I've come away with.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to remember what time you went.
No.
I will, but I'm a nerd. So that's, before I ask you a little more about the 200, I'm curious, backing up just a little bit. We heard reports of the village conditions and the food in the village and the buses. And then, of course, just, in Tokyo, there weren't fans. And this time you had an arena of 17,000 screaming fans. I know in at least one of your races, you had French competitors in lanes next to you. And so I'm curious if anything took you by surprise, just outside of the competition itself, of just being at an Olympics that was, that was probably a different experience than Tokyo.
Yeah, I think Tokyo was obviously sad because we didn't have that atmosphere created by the crowd. But in Australia, we're used to not having that many people come and spectate. So for us, it was just like nothing, if you know, like nothing's really changed. Like there's my teammates and, you know, the staff around. But at the end of the day, like it's another pool built into the ground, you know what I mean? But going into the arena in Paris, like I remember walking in when the crowd was empty, like the stands, and just thinking, holy shit, this is going to be a lot of people. And even like I remember someone saying that the US trials was even bigger than that. And I was like, how do people do this all the time? But I loved it. Like it just makes it feel so much more real, like an Olympic Games. And it's something that I will never forget. It was almost like the crowd was so loud that it was a white noise. But I lived off of it. Like walking out, like I was just shaking, not because of like my nerves in my own race. Like obviously that plays a part, but just like feeling like an ant being stared at by thousands of people was like an unreal experience.
Yeah. To we at the U.S. trials there were more people than in at the Paris Olympics, but we don't do that. That's only once every 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wished swimming had that all the time. That would be pretty cool.
Be very, very cool. I think LA is gonna, yeah, be way bigger than what Paris was as well.
Yeah, yeah. Just from the sounds of it, it seems like it's great that we're raising the bar.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
breaking world records outside the pool too.
Yeah, yeah.
So for the 200 backstroke, you said you feel like you put a little too much emotional energy into that before the race. Am I quoting you correctly?
Yeah, and I think when I say that, I mean like I was like, oh my God, everyone expects me to now win this because I did win the 100. So as much as it was a relief to win the 100, I just felt like the world was on my shoulders after that. And I just remember I was like, yeah, no, I need to make sure that I'm not reading anything. People aren't talking to me. That's going to like set me off. And like I was just very straight and narrow. Um, but the beauty of that too is like I did have the 200 IM on the same day, so it kind of distracted me from it a little bit as well. But yeah, I was exhausted after that 200 backstroke final, and I remember going to swim down and looking at Bolly. I was like, this 200 IM is about to be messy, and he like was pretty stern with me, and he was like, no, you've signed up to it, you've got to do it. And there was no way that I was never not going to do it, but I was just trying to psych myself up to actually put myself through that much pain again. But yeah, looking back, I'm glad I did it because I chickened out in Tokyo doing that double up.
I mean, I don't know about chickened out, like, but we're glad you did it.
Yeah.
We were very excited about it. Um, in the 200 backstroke for the final, I know the time wasn't exactly what you thought you could have gone based on training, but were you happy with? And obviously you got the win, but in terms of race execution, were you happy with how you raced it?
I think I raced it exactly how I'm used to racing it. Obviously, I would have liked to have gone out slightly faster. For me, going out in 59 is like I would just blow up in the back end. So I have to make sure that I'm still out in that 00, but not really slipping back to 101s. And then just coming back home with as much as I can. So I did everything that I could. And looking back now, I just didn't really put it together that way I would have liked to, accumulative time-wise.
Yeah. You don't think you can go out in a 59?
Oh, I can, but whether or not that brings me back home slower, you know what I mean? Yeah, I just think I need to stick to my strengths, and that's my back end, not my front end.
Uh-huh. Says the world record in the 50 backstroke.
Hey, I back ended that. I back ended the last 25.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just thinking out loud. Like, have you tried it? Have you ever gone out in a 59 and 200 back?
I don't think. No, I've never tried it. I think the fastest I've gone out is maybe 003. I think that was at our. Actually, I don't even know. I don't think I've gone that. I don't know. But I do remember at our Oz Champs this year, I remember being like, okay, that's like what I have to go out in at our trials or Olympics and just kind of replicate that, because I feel very confident that I can have 350s that all split within 0.2, 0.1 of each other. So I've just got to make sure I don't go out too hard, which is definitely what I did do at Olympics on that first 50. But is what it is.
Well, all right. I'm just saying. I just talked to Cam McAvoy, and he's been trying all sorts of stuff. And so, maybe just try one time and see what happens.
See what happens. Okay, I'll let you know how that goes. You can actually probably watch how I just die in the back end, but that's fine.
I feel like your 400 IM is like what, 428? It's not like you don't have an aerobic base.
People say that to me all the time, and it drives me insane because they don't understand how much I hate doing the 400 IM. I was like, I hate it with my entire life. Like, it's just, I literally have to get dragged behind the blocks. And I remember at our Oz Champs, Bolly was like, if you go under 207 for the 200 IM, you don't have to do the 400 IM. And I was 206.99. And he was like, I would like to see what you could do, and kind of like guilted me into it. I was like, what's the point of making a bet if you can't stick to it?
Like, we're not talking about trials, right? Is Aussie Champs different?
Oz Champs, yeah. So our Oz Nationals are usually on the Gold Coast, and they're April, I think, and then our trials are in June. Yeah.
And you went 206.99. I'm ashamed I don't remember that. Oh my God. That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it was all riding on you not doing the 400 IM.
Yep, that's all it came down to. That's the only reason I went under. Convinced.
And then you did it anyway.
Yeah.
Man. All right. Well, okay. So you can't go out too fast into 200 back. We get it. But then you do the 200 IM. Did you have any reservations because of the DQ from World Champs last summer going into the 200 IM?
I kind of joke about it a lot, to be honest with you, because if you don't laugh, you'll probably cry. But I was pretty butthurt last year being DQ'd, and obviously I felt pretty hard done by at the time. But in hindsight, like, it made me practice and make sure that wasn't going to be happening again. So I was confident going in. I didn't think that was going to be the issue. My biggest issue was making sure I actually got into that final, and I just scraped in. There's actually a photo of me with my hands on my head walking out from the pool like this, because I was like, I've just missed the final, and I've wasted all that energy doing that.
Were you in the first semi?
Second semi.
Okay,
yeah.
But you just thought you missed it.
Yeah, and that second semi was basically a final because it had Summer, Alex, myself, Abby Wood. Yeah, I was like, this is crazy as it is already. But those girls demolished me. And as much as I loved being on the podium for the medley, I also believe I didn't deserve it. I didn't earn it. I don't really care what anybody else says about that, because that's just my opinion on it. I was disappointed with my time, and I know that I was definitely capable of going faster in that. I think that was just the trend of my Olympics, is I'm happy but not satisfied.
How did you feel about the 24 hours in between the 2 IM semi and the 2 IM final?
Look, it would have been nice if I had something every day, because I had the first 2 days off and then had day 5 off and raced every other day. I think it was 7 events across 3 days, and I was just absolutely wrecked by that. I would like to see them spread it out a little bit better next Olympics, but I haven't got my magic wand to tell them to do that, but it would be nice, especially
ask Bob Bowman.
I didn't say it. But yeah, I just did the best that I could at the end of the day, and there was a lot of other people who had nasty double ups as well.
Yeah. I don't know if you really answered my question though. Like, I mean, were you tired heading into that 200 IM? How
Yeah.
did you recover the
No,
best?
I was pooped after that 200
Yeah.
IM, 200 backstroke on the same night, and then having, the morning off. I still came in and did a light swim, but I just remember waking up and my eyes felt like they were dropped to the ground. And I was like, oh, I've got one more individual race, and that's probably the only thing that kind of got me hyped and ready to go. Even Bowley before warm up, he was like, I want you to put in as much energy as you can. He's like, I can see that you're tired, but I know you've trained and you're more than capable of getting up tonight and, putting up a good time. And we actually debriefed about it 2 days ago. Like, I just went in to say hello, and he was like, I'm not disappointed. And I was like, I'm disappointed. It's okay. You can say it. And he's like, yeah, you could have done faster. I think you wasted too much energy and this and this and this. I was like, yep, I know. Like, it's okay. So yeah, to answer your question, I was definitely exhausted going into that.
What'd you waste energy on?
I think just like I said, I had 7 races in 3 days. That's got to definitely deplete all your energy systems. The bus travel to and from the pool being an hour long, staying in the village, all that kind of stuff. Like, I know some of the bigger names were staying closer to the pool, and I was just like, it'd be nice if it was a equal field of play. Everyone had to go on those hot, stinky buses back to the village, walk around the village, but that just wasn't the case. So I just had to cop that on the chin. But yeah, there's a lot of factors that obviously come into play as well. Like, I wasn't the only one who had back-to-back events and was exhausted, but they're just some of the things that I can really think of that would have contributed to me being tired.
I I I feel like that's part of an Olympics though, right? I mean, like I agree. There's not really an even playing field if some people are staying in hotels close to the pool and some people are in the village and hot stinky buses, but you still got 2 golds and a bronze.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like I can throw out all these excuses of why I didn't perform, but at the end of the day, I did perform and I did it when it counted. But there's always going to be a but, because I do believe that, especially the top swimmers as well, are so harsh on themselves, and just like our own worst critics, that we're always like, we could have been faster, we could have done this, we could have done this. And that's what makes us continuously want to be better in the sport. So yeah, that's kind of where I sit with it.
Yeah. Are you glad you swam the 200 IM?
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually said to Bowley before the game started, again, we sat down for a meeting, and I said, I don't care what I come away with these Olympics. If I just make a semi-final, I'm proud of myself for not backing out of the 200 IM. I feel like I've done the best that I can training. I've done everything that I possibly could. I don't believe that there's a stone that I couldn't have unturned. I ticked off every single 1%. I can't, change how everybody else in the world has trained or their conditions going into these Olympics. I can only focus on myself, and to come away with what I did come away with. Yeah, I couldn't be proud of myself and the fact that I ballsed up and did the 200 IM.
As a swimming fan, thank you. Because I mean, that was the premier race of the Olympics in my mind. Like,
Yeah.
you had 4 women in their absolute prime who are all capable of winning a gold medal. And I think the only, every time it came up in our previews, every time we talked about it, we're just like, I don't know. Like, we kept predicting different people. We're like, someone has to get left off the podium. And I think the only other outcome that would have been more perfect is if like 2 people tied for bronze.
Yeah.
Or 4 of them tied for gold.
Yeah.
But like,
and I was so off the mark. I remember watching back and I was like, yeah, no, I don't deserve that bronze medal at all. Like, if I was this much closer, I'd been like, oh yeah, like that's kind of good. But a 2:08.0, like I was just like, no, nope.
I I'm not agreeing with you, but I hear you.
Yeah.
as again, yeah, as you said, someone who's very critical and always pushing. I hear what you're saying. In terms of just relays, swimming, you had 2 relays the last 2 days.
Yep.
Is that right?
The mixed and then the medley relay as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of funny, well, not funny, but I was seriously contemplating not to do that mixed relay because I was so petrified that I wasn't going to be able to put up a 57 for my team. That's the level of exhaustion that I was kind of at. And I didn't
If you
realize
didn't,
that
who would have?
Iona Anderson,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Or even, they could have used Molly if they want to. I mean, she was a
Yeah.
57.8.
Yeah.
And that was seriously another question that they were questioning me about. They're like, who do you think we should put in? And I was like, I don't know. But yeah, like I'm glad I did it. Glad I had my coach and the head coach backing me to do that. I think I struggle as an athlete with confidence quite a lot, although, like I said, I've been training the best I ever have. You kind of get those little doubts that creep in every now and then.
How? I mean, I know that we are all human. And
Yeah.
I know every athlete struggles with this. Um, do you have any explanation for why that doubt creeps in? I mean, especially it makes sense in those moments when you're really tired. You're at the end of a 9-day competition, but for you, what do you attribute that doubt creeping into?
I think it comes back to me always thinking I could have done better. So when I do achieve something, I'm like quickly analyzing it, being like, what could I do? Where can I find point one, point two? Just being a nerd. And I think when you don't actually take time to appreciate what you have done and you continuously move on to the next thing, you don't really have the time to sit and get that confidence from your success. So I think that's probably one thing that I really want to nail these next 4 years leading into the games is just continuously working on trying to build that confidence. And my confidence definitely went from probably a 5 to about a 7 being with Bowley. Obviously that fluctuates every now and then, but him as a coach, he's just so mellow, so level-headed, and he would never lie to you. Like if he thinks you've done a good session, he'll be the first to be like, yeah, good job. And you're like, okay, thanks. But he's also the first one to be like, yeah, no, that was average.
Sorry.
No,
I
that's
wish
okay.
I wish we had more of that in sport, honestly. I think that kind of honesty is a good thing. People need to be
Absolutely.
told they're average, or but
Yeah.
not they are average, but their performance was average.
Yeah. And I think too, like sometimes you look at people and you see how big their ego can be and you're like, I don't want to be like that. So I kind of like, as much as this sounds bad, like I try to shy away from putting my confidence exteriorly for people to kind of judge. I'd rather that just speak through, my training or my performances rather than walking around with, a big chest.
And that makes sense to me, but it's also in the same vein, it's also a little bit shocking to hear the first woman to ever go back to back to back to back is at a 7 in average out of 10 in confidence.
Yeah.
But it's also great to hear that the next you've got 4 more years to keep working on that.
And that's the beauty of sport too. Like you always find something like that that's not necessarily tied to times or swimming. You can work on that outside of the pool as well.
Yeah. Um, and so you walk away from Paris. The swimming ends. You've got 5 medals. When were you asked to be the flag bearer for the closing ceremonies?
Yeah, so I was actually in Dubrovnik at the time, and had not even been there for 24 hours yet. And I got a missed phone call from Anna Mears, who our chef de mission. And I looked at my mum and her partner. I was like, what have I done wrong? I was like, I've done something wrong for her to be calling me. And I gave it probably 10 minutes. And then I got a text and she was like, please call me as soon as you can. And that just sent me into such a spiral. I was literally sitting in the car. I was like, what have I done? Called her back.
Sorry, who is this phone call from again?
Anna Mears, our chef de mission. So
that's a name.
Yeah.
Sorry, who is that? Are you what?
Anna Mears is she is like the Australian cyclist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry for my ignorance.
She was basically like the chef de mission of the Australian team and just run the whole thing basically. It's a very big job. But yeah, she's the boss lady. So when you get a call from her, you kind of poop your pants a little bit. Pulled her back and she was like, oh, would you like to be the flag bearer? And I was like completely shocked because there was so many performances at the Olympics for the woman that I didn't actually feel like I had deserved the spot. So for a quick second, I was like, me? Like, really? But obviously I'm never going to turn that down. Yeah, that's how it unfolded.
So you were already on holiday at the time.
Yeah.
So did that change your travel plans? Like, were you already planning on going to closing ceremonies or were you not?
Yeah. So I was planning on coming back for the closing ceremony, but the day of. So I was supposed to have an extra day in Dubrovnik, but they flew me out, just stayed up in Paris for an extra night and then joined the rest of the Aussies back in the village and did the closing ceremony. And then we all left together, it's cool to be able to leave with the Australian team on a chartered flight back home.
No kidding. I mean, it was, I talked to a lot of athletes who did the I think it was called the Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
Did you get to do that?
Yeah, that's where I was dying from COVID as well. I just remember waiting for us to be announced to walk out and I was just laying on the floor and Molly was looking at me and she's like, are you okay? I was like, no, because she was quite sick as well. So it was so cool though to be like, because it had the Eiffel Tower right behind us and, there's a good solid amount of people in the crowd. So it was kind of just like the last little hurrah before we went home.
I feel like, especially compared to Tokyo, that like what a cool stamp to put on your Olympic experience and to really celebrate it and because a medal ceremony is one thing. It's very formal and you obviously get to hear the national anthem if you win the gold, but you're standing on a podium and it's not a lot of celebration, but here it seemed like, you really got to just cheer and be joyous and process it a little more.
Yeah, they literally were like, do whatever you want. And I am the worst for that because I get so awkward and so shy that just cling to someone. I'm like, what are we doing? They're like, just dance. I was like, I'm not dancing. This is so embarrassing. So I was dying from COVID. I was embarrassed, but it was just fun to be with a smaller group of Aussies enjoying that experience with one another. I was there with Emma as well. And I think I really enjoyed just watching her soak it up because it was her last Olympic experience. So yeah, that was really wholesome for me to watch.
Yeah. Emma McKeon, 14-time Olympic medalist. I mean, that's pretty insane to me, especially because she retired in her 20s or something and then came back. I mean, yeah, her story is pretty insane to me. What was it like not only to get to be on her last relay with her, but then to get to soak it up with her, to jump in the pool with her after that relay, to soak up her swan song on literally one of the most storied careers in our sport.
Yeah, I think if people were able to see that the year that she did have with injuries and all that kind of thing, they would really have a new respect for her and how she was able to put that behind, not have the most ideal preparation, but still stand up, do her individual race and get up and provide for the country. We really live and thrive off relays, especially the 4x1 and the 4x2 women. Like, those girls are just unbelievable, unstoppable in my opinion. But for her to be a part of that and come away with a gold, I was just like, yeah, you go, girl. Like, she's had an unbelievable career. She's an unbelievable human. There's not much more I could really say about her. Like, she's just always carried herself with such grace, and it's been an honor to be able to watch her do that through hell and back, really.
Yeah. I totally forgot that you got to train with her for the last 3 years too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What a cool experience. Speaking of the women's 4x1 and 4x2 free relays for Australia, when do you think you're going to be on them?
Never. It's too competitive and too hard. There was a serious contemplation at the start of the year if I should do the 4x2 and take it seriously, but it just would have been way too much and too greedy to, step up and do that relay. I did it at trials, didn't make the final. I was like, yeah, no, that's fine. I'm not, like, that answered my question for me. I don't have to worry about doing that. But who knows, if there's a smaller team and they need someone to do it, I'll step up and do it, but I'll leave that to the professionals.
Would you go at trials in the 2 and the 3?
It was slow. I think I was only like 158 or 159 in the heats, which, yeah, I was like, meh, is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. In your country, that does not get a second swim, I guess.
No.
Fair enough. What day did that fall? Like, did you have another swim the day of the women's 4x2?
It was on the same day as the 200 backstroke heats, I believe. So it would have been 200 back heats, 4x2 heats, and then the 200 200 backstroke semis. So it would have been, it wouldn't have been pretty.
Well, but you're putting yourself in the heats. I'm thinking more final.
Yeah. No. Leave those for those girls. Like, Arnie and Molly are just unbelievable at what they do. And the two girls that go close second behind them, like, that's always just, even that field, I'm like, who are they going to pick? It's always interesting to see what they end up choosing. And I would hate to be the person choosing it as well.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know about Australia. In the US, if you're the person responsible for choosing relays and they don't win, people are really upset, and it's a little obnoxious. I would hope that coaches get a little more grace in that regard.
Yeah. I think after Tokyo with the 4x2, those girls definitely should have, and we all know it as well, they should have won that. But we were greedy in the sense that we were trying to get 8 people a medal and put, 8 different people in swimming, and that cost us in the end. But, we've learnt from that mistake, and I don't think that'll ever happen again. So that's probably the harshest people have ever been towards a relay in Australia. But it's hard to speak on it because I've never been a part of those relays that are quite critical.
Okay. I mean, you guys, medley relay counts, right? I guess it doesn't have the legacy of the other two.
Yeah. Though. Yeah. And that's what I mean as well. It's like every relay counts, but there's the freestyle that's kind of like glorified.
Yeah. I mean, rightly so. They've absolutely earned that. earned that title. Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just curious because now that these Olympics are over, it's seemingly the world's your oyster, and you can like go swim any event you want. Like 100, we thinking 100 breast, maybe 200 breast.
I kind of I like dabbling in different events just because it changes up my training a bit. I do get sick of doing the same thing over and over again. So I'll have a stint where I'll do like 2 weeks of a bit more intensity of a different stroke. I'll never do 200 fly ever. So that's just one I'm staying away from. But yeah, I think depending on how the rest of the year goes, I'll probably end up doing some off events in December at our Queensland States or World Short Course if I end up doing that. But yeah, at this current point in time, I don't see myself going back to Europe. It's a long trip for us Australians. So I'm ready to stay home and just kind of set the foundation for the next 4 years.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think you would do the World Cups?
I would love to, but there's just certain places that I don't want to go to, and I'm not going to say anything more on that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Do you have how do you feel about short course and just generally swimming?
I like it because it's different and we never get to do it, but I'm so bad at it in terms of like the underwaters. Like, it's always funny listening to the commentary back on the races at Olympics. They're like, Kaylee and Regan have got great underwaters. And I'm like, nah. I was like, my underwaters aren't that great at all. Like, I can do it off one ball, but if you add in like 8 turns, count me out. So, but it is fun to do it.
Okay. Yeah. Spoken like a true Olympic champion. Fair enough. All right, Kaylee, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat. My favorite part of this conversation is that I learned that they use the phrase butt hurt in Australia. I really appreciate that.
You didn't. I've actually had these conversations with the Americans in like the call rooms and stuff, just like trying to pick up on different slangs. I was like, surely Australians aren't that bogan, like, really, but I think, yeah, we kind of are.
You guys have a next level of slang. I feel like that's
okay.
Yeah, no, I respect it. I'm a little jealous of it. It's impressive, honestly. But
come to Australia.
I'm working on it, Kaylee. That can be another discussion, but
yeah,
I would love to. You have to find a coach first, and once you do, I'll come film a practice.
Come on over. Yeah.
It's a deal. You've been listening to the Swim Swam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take Swim Swam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.